Top 5 thoughts about mostly Ross Dellinger's article, but the Big Ten SEC venture. To kind of wrap it up, this is what we started the show with today, and to bookend it on this. Number 5, my one concern about it, and it's not to maybe be concerned about right now, but it is long-term, that there's no other voices in the room. You've got the Big Ten and the SEC talking about how they can help everybody else. That just makes me nervous when it comes overall, because at the end of it, how much do you really want to help them, or how is this, right now they serve the purpose of helping the Big Ten and SEC, but how much of this is also to have plan B for when they no longer serve their purpose? That's what scares me about it.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think it goes back to there's not really anything you can do about it.
Yeah.
And so
that's a hell of a way to have to live life. But you're exactly right.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It's true, though. I mean, you can't force anything if you're Phillips or Yormark or much less anybody else. I mean, if they're not going to listen to those guys, they're not going to listen to the American Conference or the Southland or any other conference that you want to throw out there. Those commissioners certainly aren't going to sway any opinions. So that's something that I think concerns a lot of ACC fans who don't have teams that are automatically going to get a spot, or in our minds would automatically get a spot, which is really automatically. Like I saw NC State's a lock because of the government of North Carolina, and I'm like, I would like to see that before that actually happens, because I don't think the SEC is going to be like, well, all right, I guess we'll take NC State to get. I don't know. I think that they'd be a little bit more selective. But
that's what they say today.
That's what they say today. Yeah,
when they have to say it, or
right.
when they're pushed into a situation of like, you make up your mind or not.
All rules are off. All bets and rules are off
yes.
if they get to that point where they take it to the next level.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of talk still going on about what all this is actually going to look like. But I mean, it's very clear those two are on a path of their own making and choosing, and there's a lot of people that are following behind them, and you just hope that the light, the flashlight, the torch, whatever that's leading the way stays within reach, and it's not suddenly fading out and you're like in complete darkness because they've left you behind. And that's what I think everybody's fear is. But yeah, I mean, those are the two most powerful voices, and you hope that Phillips and Yormark can have their say as well. Based on the article, it appears they are to some extent, but they're also basically saying, what can we do about it, and acknowledging that like the SEC and the Big Ten are going to go and do what they're going to do, and there's not really much anybody can do to stop them.
But at the same time, NC State won't be left out if Vanderbilt, with all due respect, and others are included in that next move.
Yeah, no, I think that's more of a conversation I came across where it was like somebody basically guaranteeing that NC State would be in the SEC if they got North Carolina, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
'Cause I think if you're the SEC, especially, not so much the Big Ten, top to bottom, SEC has way better teams. Top wise, like you can have a bit of more of a comparison, but like top to bottom, I don't think it's even close. And so you add Oklahoma and Texas. The last thing I think you want to do is just start adding people to add people because of state allegiances and things like that. I mean, I get the whole Virginia and you want the geography, but NC State, all due respect, don't get me wrong, but I don't know.
You're just looking at it realistically.
Yeah.
Well, look,
when you have Rutgers and Maryland, you're not going to have NC State, but at the same time, not just because.
This is not going to be about geography and TV sets anymore, or potential TV sets.
To some extent,
as much as it is going to be about proven TV sets. The teams that have the ratings that are unflappable up and down.
Which I think is what the SEC kind of has.
Yeah.
And I granted, you could say NC State would bring that, or anybody like them. They're not just on an island by themselves, but like Virginia Tech would be in the same conversation. But I do think that the SEC just seems to me to be smart enough to understand that the limited membership is what makes it elite and makes it seem as strong as it is.
Don't water it down, even if you bring in some pretty good names and logos.
Yeah, if you bring in Florida State and Clemson, you're still watering it down because, again, you're like, somebody's going to lose, right?
Especially if Florida State's such a loud, barking little...
But I mean, even if you bring in two premier brands that have won multiple national titles, you're watering it down because eventually it's either going to hurt the two you brought in or somebody that was always good.
Yep.
But that's in our frame of reference as it pertains to the way it is right now. What would that look like if there's a whole new model that they're playing around with?
Maybe
we don't know.
But number 4, they will want an expanded basketball tournament, which I just hate. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
Used to be 16, then 32, and 68.
64 was fine. I was okay with 68. Like, that's fine. That gives you like a little amuse-bouche before the thing. But
I'd like to know of the 4 additional schools since they started 68, how many of them are from a Power 5 autonomy conference?
It's happening more and more because they did
Isn't that what we're talking about with the 12 in football?
Instead of doing with the 4 16s, now there's a 12 seed and you have those other things. So
and let's give
they've made
Virginia
that better.
Tech or whoever another chance to enter the tournament.
They've made that better, like for sure. Because when it was the 4, like the battle to see who loses to Duke, like that's what it was for the longest time. But I think it's good right now. Just try to enhance the product that you have. Like, again, this is like walking out Sydney Sweeney and being like, yeah, she'd be better if we gave her a facelift. No, she's not.
Yeah.
She's fine.
If her eyes were green, then she'd really be a 10. I don't know. Yeah.
No, just let it be.
For all I know, she has green eyes. I really don't even know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Those could be evil looking or beautiful. Either way, yeah.
So, that just don't change it. Just enhance it. Make it better. Make it more accessible. Whatever you want to do. Make sure more people go. And because I've been to a ton of NCAA tournament games, and sometimes you've got it where you're thinking this is the NCAA tournament. This room should be packed, and I'm looking around like I could sit anywhere I wanted to.
Yep.
She has blue eyes. What it's worth. I just double checked on that. I'm going to be factual on this program, but I'm not in favor of this. I'm also not the biggest college basketball fan in the world, so this isn't like, oh my gosh, like my world's erupting. But as somebody who does love the tournament and loves that time of year, I'm not real excited about a bunch of teams who are then starting to hang around like the 500 line. I mean, like, how deep does it go, and how much do you water down the regular season, which you've already started to do in college football? How much does that come into play if you're suddenly opening the door to? I mean, a lot of it would depend on how many teams are we talking about. Because if you're saying it's like another 4 play-in type of games, and there's not even double-digit new teams, I don't know how it all would work. Because in our heads we go, well, 64, you got to keep it even. Well, it'd be 128. There's no chance it's 128 teams.
If it's 128, then you're going to look at it's going to be like the NBA regular season where you're like, oh, why are 4 of the 5 starters sitting tonight?
Yeah. So I don't know what that'll look like, but I'm not real thrilled about the idea of an expanded basketball tourney. I think they've got a sweet spot right now.
Somebody just put in the chat, and I know we're running late. Is North Carolina the only state in the South without a member of the SEC, without a team in the SEC?
No, Virginia.
Well, that's true. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Right there next to them. Right there above them. Yeah.
Number 3. No reason to worry about a break off yet. Right now, they serve the purpose like it is. The commissioners say they're not worried. If I'm Jim Phillips, I'd be worried about everything. Like when I wake up in the morning, I'd be like, what is happening to my life? Especially given how the last couple of months have gone for him. And the fact that he was duped into the alliance with George Kliavkov. And the only difference between him and George Kliavkov is his conference is currently still together and he has a job.
Well, and as of about an hour ago, George Kliavkov doesn't even have a conference, or it's
it's
starting.
Right. He still has and Phillips still has a job, and Kliavkov is, is done. So I'm going to reiterate this point. Like, I just worry that there's we're going to work on how to fix it for everybody right now, but we're going to have a secondary group that works on the nuclear option. And then that one sounds better when you don't have another voice in the room saying whoa, guys, let's not do the nuclear option. Let's not push the button yet. Because when you don't have somebody advocating for the Big 12, the ACC, and I'm not even mentioning everybody else, but those 2 other conferences, it's going to be hard to, at the end of the day, sometimes you get in an echo chamber and you make bad ideas.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's realistic to worry and wonder quite a bit about what all this is going to look like, but it very much could be a big nothing bomb when it's all said and done. It could be basically what it is now, and just you're seeing more money from the playoff go to a specific conference versus the way it is right now, and maybe more noticeable changes. But the fear, let's just face what the fear is. The fear is those 2 basically take their footballs and go and do the NFL, is NFL 2.0 or NFL Light or whatever. That's the fear. I don't think anybody worries as much about basketball that side of things because you understand there's a lot of programs that you couldn't necessarily, like right now, I know North Carolina, everybody's assuming they're moving somewhere, but right now they're in the ACC. Right now Kansas is in the Big 12. You're not having a tournament without programs like that or Duke or so on and so forth. So that's not as much of a concern, but the football side, I mean, yeah, with all the craziness going on and the whole House versus NCAA, that needs to get sorted out. Paying players needs to get sorted out. Is that in-house? How does that work? Who's going to be able to do that? So, yeah, there's a lot on the table, but I don't think it's as simple as they can just flip a switch this week and say, all right, we're leaving. There's a lot that they have to sort through and get fixed up to want to go or to be able to go and make a move like that.
Number 2, your mark going all in on basketball. This is something we knew, but we kind of even heard more about it today. And look, if you can't enhance football to a certain point, like you've maybe hit the wall and where you can be with football, basketball's probably underserved in that regard about pushing it and like really pushing what this conference is going to be, especially once you add Arizona to it. And Arizona State's not a bad program either. They've been good, year over year. Utah's had a really good history. When it comes to that, Colorado is fine. They're an okay basketball program, but Arizona's a legacy program. They're absolutely one of those teams that's good. So you got to promote that all you want, but it is interesting to see like how much this will work because
if you're going to go into a fight, you go in with your best part of your weaponry, and right now it's the college basketball for the Big 12. That's their nuts and bolts, and there's no reason to not bang that drum.
Yeah, I mean they've leaned into it. They've had success winning national titles, and that's what you want to see is winning those big championships. Not to the extent of the SEC stranglehold in football. That for the most part, obviously didn't win it this year, but the Big 12 has an opportunity to create something similar. Keyword being similar, not exactly like that run of dominance, but similar. And it's a great basketball league. So yeah, you lean into your strengths, and to think that you're going to go to the table and act like you're the same in football, even if the brands are fine and good and the games are fine and good and great sometimes and the chase for the championship is good and all that, it's still you can't create like 100 years of history. You can't make Iowa State have 20,000 more fans every Saturday than they have, or Baylor have 80,000 people in there. It's just not realistic.
You are who you are.
You are who you are in football, and every once in a while a TCU is going to jump up and make some noise, but for the most part, where you can do your most damage above everybody else is on the hardwood. And so, yeah, that just is logical to lean into basketball and have that be your leading strength there. Number 1,
the ACC appears to be unprepared for the future. Every time I hear Jim Phillips talk, and maybe it's just he's trying to deflect, but every time I hear him talk, it feels a little Kleov coffee. It just does.
Kleov coffee.
Yeah, just a little Kleov-esque, if you want to. But you've got a team that wants to leave. You probably have more than that are hoping that this gets worked out so they don't have to pay their lawyers. They can just go, here you go. You've got these 2 conferences that are, excluding you in this plan. You've already been duped once. You got screwed in the playoff because you didn't do anything, not just because of that, but you didn't do anything and got caught flat-footed there. I just don't know if they're ready for the tidal wave that's coming.
Hey, man, they added SMU and Cal and Stanford.
Yeah.
They're going to be fine. No, I mean, I get that. I think you're also, and I would be this way too, but a little wishful thinking that the ACC is on rougher terrain than they are, but it does appear like they're on a pretty rocky road right now. I do think, though, that Florida State fans like yourself hope that that's the case, but it does appear to be the case. I don't know how rocky, though, because we've got to see how this lawsuit continues to play out and how the negotiations continue to go there. If we look up in a couple of months and Florida State's agreed to an arrangement where they're going to pay $50 million to get out of the ACC, then, yeah, they're screwed, man, for all intents and purposes. So you would hope that this isn't the case, but I can understand the hesitancy just because of the way dominoes have sort of fallen and how they've had the wool pulled over their eyes a couple of times now. And now there's no pulling wool. I mean, their teams are saying, we want to leave. Like, one team is saying, we want to leave. Others are saying, yeah, we wouldn't mind that either. I don't know how unprepared they are, but it's very uneasy in ACC territory right now for sure.
No question.
Even with a big, nice, long contract, as we know, that's getting pecked at this very moment, 24/7 lawyers are looking into that thing, trying to crack the secret code there.
It's not only that; it's probably past